Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff. He's a California congressman. He is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Chairman Schiff, thank you for making time to talk to us tonight. I know you've got a lot on your plate. I appreciate you being here.
It's good to be with you.
I have covered the Flynn case, I think, as intensively as anybody else in the national media from the very beginning. I will admit to being sort of flummoxed and baffled. Are those synonyms? I will admit to being to not totally understanding what's going on with the Flynn case right now, and not even understanding the political points that General Flynn's supporters and the president are trying to make about him. Do you have a broad picture sense of what they are trying to do here with the dropping of this prosecution?
I think I do. And in the broadest outline, I would say it's this. 90,000 Americans have died from the virus. Our economy has gone into a downward spiral to Great Depression era levels of unemployment. They don't know what to do, and they don't want to focus on that. So they need to focus on something else. So this is the something else. But it also gets Rachel to something Bill Barr said in a very revealing way when he was asked, what do you think history is going to say about what you're doing at the Justice Department, the dropping of the Flynn case? And you could add to that the intervening in Roger Stone's prosecution, the initiation of multiple counter investigations of the investigators. And his very arrogant, smug answer was, well, you know, the winners get to write history. They're trying to write history. And it's very difficult for them to write because it's so convoluted and untrue. And just to look at the whole Flynn case, they need to try to make a hero out of a guy who admitted and pled guilty to lying twice in conversations with the Russians designed to undermine U.S. policy at the time. Very hard to make that person a hero. To do it, you have to concoct a massive conspiracy, something that they're calling Obamagate, but they can't even articulate what it is. But they have, willful players like Rick Grinnell, who 3 years after the fact have been selectively, in a politicized way, releasing some information but concealing the rest. And this is why we're calling on him, hey, if you're going to start these partisan declassifications, you ought to be fully transparent and just release it all instead of being selective. Now, I don't have much confidence he will do that, but we will keep pressing for that kind of transparency. And bear in mind, one last point, Rachel, even while Grinnell is claiming to want transparency, just this week, the Trump Justice Department was continuing to argue before the Supreme Court, took the case all the way to the Supreme Court, that the grand jury materials in the investigation should not be provided to Congress and should not under any circumstances be made public. So they're going all the way to the Supreme Court to fight transparency. I think that tells you how much confidence they have in the underlying materials.
What do you make of this public statement in response to your request from Rick Grinnell, in which he seemed to indicate that maybe the transcripts will be released or something will be released? I mean, I remember Sally Yates, who was acting attorney general at the time. She's one of the people who went up to Capitol Hill to tell the White House, hey, by the way, your national security advisor is in a position to be blackmailed by the Russian government. He is lying about his contact with them, and the Russians know about it. And that's a really bad position for your national security advisor to be in. You should maybe do something about it. What she said about that warning to the White House was that Flynn's underlying conduct was problematic. It was not just that he was lying about it, but what he was lying about, what he was actually doing with the Russians, was of a concern, seemingly in a counterintelligence sense. And so that makes me want to know what Mike Flynn was doing in terms of his underlying conduct. It makes me want to know what he was saying to the Russian government. Do you have the sense from Rick Grinnell or from the administration more broadly that the actual transcript of what Flynn said might ultimately come out?
It might come out if they feel compelled to do so. But, I think you're absolutely right about the concern that Sally Yates articulated. Here you have the incoming national security advisor for the United States lying to the vice president about a conversation he had with the Russian ambassador, the vice president misleading the American people, and the Russians, because they're on the other side of that phone call, they know that he's lied and they can compromise him. That is classic counterintelligence nightmare material. So, yes, there was a profound reason to interview Flynn, which is why the Justice Department's brief arguing for the dismissal of that case is so dishonest and disingenuous. But in terms of where Rick Grenell is coming from, here's the problem with what he's been trying to do, which is he declassifies selectively these unmasking requests. And then there's a published report, and I can't comment on whether it's accurate or not, that Flynn's name may never have been masked to begin with. Well, that really blows a big hole in what Grenell has been trying to do, which is establish some theory that they were trying to unmask Flynn so that they could, I don't know, persecute Flynn. And now there are public reports that he wasn't even masked to begin with in that call with the Russians. So this is the problem, I think, when you're trying to weave an alternate history, and that is the facts keep getting in the way. But at the end of the day, what Rick Grenell is trying to do, and he's the most partisan figure ever to run any intelligence agency, at least in my lifetime, what he's trying to do is the Steve Bannon model of just flooding the zone with excrement. And Bannon used a stronger word, but that's essentially what Rick Grenell is trying to do and what Bill Barr is trying to do and what the whole counter-narrative effort is designed to do, and that is so muddy the waters that people can't ferret out the truth anymore. And there's nothing more destructive to a democracy than the idea that they're pushing, which is that there's no such thing as truth anymore.
Congressman Adam Schiff of the great state of California, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, thanks very much for being with us tonight. I apologize for sort of just dumping on you my sense that this is just really weird and I don't get it. That's not usually the way that I conduct an interview. In this case, I am bamboozled by their behavior, but you have made sense of it.
Oh, you're so right, because it has that Alice in Wonderland quality of going down the rabbit hole. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Exactly. Flooding the zone with excrement is the way to understand why we feel that way. It's on purpose. Thank you, sir. It's great to have you here. Much appreciated.